Today we're in Gloucestershire. We're going to an old country house called Westonbirt House and Gardens. It looks a really nice house and the gardens are quite good apparently, so it should be decent.
In half a mile, your destination will be on the right.
Okay. You can already see there's a lot of different trees around. Like going under this cedar tree, yeah. Cedar of Lebanon. So this place is actually a school now. It's actually been a school for a long, long time. It's quite impressive looking that. Very nice indeed. Find a parking place. Okay, so this is Westonbirt House in Gloucestershire, near Tetbury. This house was built between 1863 and 1872 for the wealthy owner, Robert Holford. Robert Holford was helped with the design of the house by the architect Louis Villamy, and it took inspiration from a much older Elizabethan house called Wollerton Hall in Nottinghamshire. So as I said, it was built in around the 1860s, so it's a Victorian house, but it's actually sort of in an Elizabethan style. Following the death of Robert Holford, the estate was passed on to his son, and when his son died in 1926, the house and its collections of art and other valuables were sold, and the house became a school at that point, and it's still a school in the present day. Now I'm actually going on a tour inside the house. And then once we've been in the house and I come out, I'm going to have a look around the gardens, because they are quite interesting by the looks of it, and we're going to go and have a look at the different features and stuff like that.
Where he spent a lot of his time, where he did shuffle between the two places, which was made much easier when the railway. In the time with all the modern appurtenances of the big house, built on a metal frame, which was built in Derbyshire and Wales and brought down here. He had amassed a large, very large arts collection. Among his many loves, the gentleman there holding the gun, I'm told, holding not very correctly. Not an expert in that arts. The walnut paneling came mainly from the estate. The two socialising rooms and rooms for keeping his collections in. Right, this little room is known as the anti-library, that is the before library, and it is typical of the state rooms here. Things to note, except the glass has got discoloured over the years. These rooms would have been of the Holford Westonbirt houses, remodelled and redeveloped in about 15 or 16 years ago as part of the early rebuilding or they're using it as a study room. Yes, it's still a study room. The school buildings, the classrooms are down the other side. You don't get to see those. In schools, it's open for study time in school. And then it's started reusing some of the buildings as well. Right, this is a very splendid room, as I say, for restoring and maintaining the school, the house. Because they can't get any direct lottery funds because it's still owned, the house is still owned by the school. Sorry. I can show this lady out.
Thank you. Do you want to go in the garden? Yeah, that'd be lovely. You could sit down if you want.
Feel free to sit down if I'm boring you. Right, work to be done. About 40 restorers came in and restored from dogwood, and we suspect that Holford didn't actually notice the difference. You'll see that there are pelmets and hangings there. They were also part of the restoration.
Yes.
We'll see lots of glimpses of the school as we go around. The actual classroom room. Well, this room, this was the drawing room. And as I said, the idea of once you admired the library, you came in here, which was carpeted. What you do when you're visiting a rich man. A big drawing room and drawing rooms go, but modest in terms of the other houses. This is my favourite. Built in wood by Michelangelo, and not quite as big as this, but very similar. And it's certainly clear he would have one like it. These are plastered, the originals in forms of wood, but the similarity is very marked. Quite often we'll come in here and there's glasses and things. Now I mentioned the fact that called Dorchester House, and in fact the house that we built was Dorchester House indeed. It predated this situation of Westonbirt House and was built to develop a career in the civil service, specifically this is the dining room, and was probably the last room to be decorated. In one of the local manor houses, which we also have, was spending all his time down here. And he invited, as you would imagine, a lot of his court friends and the royal family down here for the occasional visit. We actually put in electric light. If you look around, you can see
Where are we going? We're going that way. Yeah.
Low ceiling, another one with a painting of a painting, a picture of a Infanta by Velasquez, very similar to the original. These would have been probably even more concealed than they are now. The one down there goes to Robert Halford's workshop. He was very much the polymath, and as among as many other skills. Was the first head teacher, a very dominant Scottish lady called Alistair Crawford. Alistair Sim in the Bells of St Trinian's, the headmistress there. I don't know if you
Thank you.
now in the gallery of the saloon, which I'm sure is very grand. The walls are lined with leather, corded leather, which is very comfortable to do, and the alcoves are in velvet. 3 very fine chandeliers. We believe that they were gas powered. It would have been quite impractical to have these candles because it takes at least 2 hours to lower them down. But as I said, Robert Halford's preference was for natural light, and when the house was built, there would be much more natural light coming from him, from the ceiling. This kind of light. A little panel up there, wasn't the whole roof was covered over during the Second World War when Westonbirt House was taken over by the This room and the room next door have been turned into little museums. There's quite a lot of information on the walls. I'll give you a little time to look at all of those if you want to do that. But again, on the walls, a couple of the things that are well worth noticing are the ensuite. These were painted by Maisie Halford herself, possibly with the assistance of her daughter Margaret, because Maisie was quite an artist. Various of the themes she must have taken from illustrations. What is possibly the first Victorian ensuite that was. This is where her wash basin, artistic influence. He didn't share his father's love for art, for books and sculpture collection. He wasn't particularly short of money, although he did inherit a gambling debt. He was a bit of a gambler in his youth. But he had no real use for a lot of his father's collection. It was beginning to fail. And after the fall, he was immobilised and was moved to convalesce in this room and lay down under this rather splendid ceiling of cranes. You think they're cranes, but they're not. It had to be sold to pay for death duties, and that is indeed what happened to Dorchester House. They tried to sell Westonbirt House.
That's what it's doing now. It's filming now.
That's good.
I could recommend it highly, honestly. All built in,
Yeah.
so you know you can walk down the stairs and if you look,
Yeah.
it's quite good. I would recommend it highly.
It was an orangery, and also the north-facing side was Mary Ann's studio. You can actually get out into the back gardens here. There's a door just on the back here. Grounds that you can pick up a self-guided toilet from the
So as you've just seen on the tour inside, it's actually still really, really nice inside, with a lot of its original features still in place. Although obviously you can see the telltale signs that it's in use as a school at the moment. But no, I'm really impressed with the place. Really, really nice. So the gardens, they were actually laid out between 1830 and 1885. And you think, well, this house wasn't built till 1863, so why were the gardens laid out earlier, from 1830? Well, that's because there were two previous houses on the site before this Victorian one. So that's why the gardens were laid out earlier. So the actual design of the gardens and the various bits, they were largely the work of Robert Halford, the owner of the house. But he obviously went to seek advice from the likes of William Thomas, James Pullum, William Gilpin, and his architect Louis Villamy. Now interestingly, adjacent to the house there's this little church here, and actually that used to be the church for a village that stood here. But as a lot of these wealthy owners did when they were sort of laying out the gardens and the house, he decided that he wanted to move the village. So the village of Westonbirt actually moved about half a mile away, so that Halford could extend parts of his gardens. So this is the little church here. Okay, so this is St Catherine's Church. This was actually originally constructed in the 12th century, but it's had a lot of rebuilding and alterations since then. So we'll go and have a little look inside. So, organ pipes. Yeah. This is actually used as the school chapel now. So yeah, it's a tidy little church. Nothing too spectacular, but does the job. That's a memorial to Robert Halford and some of his family members. It's an interesting little thing. Yes, that's a memorial to Robert Halford. Okay, so this terrace here is just next to the church and just in front of the house, and apparently that yew tree there in the middle is supposed to be the oldest tree on the site. So this little building here is called the garden room, and it was originally a bothy and a potting shed, and it was used for a lot of years as a tuck shop for the school. Nowadays, as you can see, it's for visitor information and toilets. So we're now entering the Italian garden through this very nice ornate looking pavilion at this end. There's a nice seat in the pavilion as well, and a sort of mosaic floor. That's quite impressive. That dog, I believe, is quite synonymous with the Halford family. Yeah, so the Italian garden, this is obviously a more formal part of the gardens, as opposed to when we venture out in a bit further. It's a more sort of picturesque looking landscape. So this is probably the most formal area, being in an Italian garden. Here's the pavilion at the other end of the garden. I think these were designed in about 1843. Quite nice. And this one goes further in. So just coming off the Italian garden, this is the Camellia House. On either side of the entrance arch there, the two tall pillars, or columns, they were actually chimneys for the heated garden wall, apparently. That's quite a nice entrance. I think coming off here, there used to be a range of glass houses or conservatories, but the original ones are long gone now, so they've obviously got these very modern buildings here now. I think these are used by the school for, classrooms or music rooms or something like that. So that's where we just walked from, in the Camellia House. So still in the Italian garden, and at the opposite side to where those two pavilions were, at each corner, there's a lovely couple of arches there at the bottom, on that side, and one the other end. And then down the middle there's this little pond. Couple of fountain heads at each side, but unfortunately not working today. I bet that would have looked quite nice. Here we are, a bit closer to one of those highly decorated arches in the corner. Various things on there, including pineapples and things. And then when you leave the Italian garden here, we're getting more to the sort of landscape picturesque views. A nice seat just near one of those arches. So just leaving the Italian garden, you come across this sunken garden here with a pond at the bottom of it. And this pond, this is called the Mercury Pond. And I'm guessing that's because the statue is of Mercury in the middle. And then just a little way back from the pond is this structure up here which is called the Bishop's Seat. Which has got a nice bag of grass cuttings or something in front of it. It's quite a strange design, isn't it? Sort of like an Eastern design, maybe. I think we can actually get up to the rear of here and it's like a little platform or terrace or something. Oh yeah. So from on the top of here, it's quite a good view actually. You can see the pond down there. And then there's a view right through to some steps in the distance. Let me try and zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that's quite good. Right, so now we're on that terrace that we could see when we zoomed in. And this is called the Lung Terrace. And probably guess because it's a terrace and it's long. You can see these all these different trees, they would have been chosen carefully, not just any old trees plonked down. Part way down this terrace you can see back to where we were before. So that's the Italian garden with the camellia house behind it. And here's that little pool. Down here quite a bit of algae and stuff in this little bit. But let's not forget this is actually a school, so it's not going to be 100% brilliantly maintained everywhere. This is the view towards the house from this long terrace, as you can see. Lots of different trees still, carefully selected. I'm not great at identifying trees, but I know that large one there, that's a cedar of Lebanon. That's quite impressively large, to be honest. Incidentally, this cedar, this is known as Ball's cedar. And that's because apparently it was planted by a gardener called Ball in the 1840s. End of this long terrace there's a decorative stone seat. And if we look down here, these tiles are by Minton. They're quite nice. To be fair, they've lasted quite well there. They're probably worth a pretty penny as well. That's quite unusual actually, to have such good tiles outside on a garden feature. And just behind the seat you can see we're back near the church where we were earlier. This flight of steps here, this comes off the long terrace. If you can see down in the middle distance down there, there's another pond, so let's go and have a look. So we have to go down a couple of levels more. And apparently this pond used to be up where the long terrace is, but it was moved. Just stopped halfway down just because there's a nice view of the house from here. I just thought I'd get that in. That's really nice. Here we are at the fountain pond. You can probably see there's another stone seat behind that. His family like putting a lot of seats around, which, you know, that's alright, isn't it? So this is the fountain pond, and this one's actually working, which is good. It's the first working fountain we've seen so far. And there's the view back up to the house. It's quite pleasant. And here's that stone seat. And this has got tiles as well. And these look like Minton. So yeah, they didn't mess around with the garden seats here. Just down from the church, there's this footbridge here. If we look down there, there's a sunken pathway, and that was created when Robert Holford moved the village. He created this sunken pathway so that the villagers could still go up to the church without sort of disturbing his gardens and whatnot. So he had to build this footbridge over so he could get to the different parts of his gardens. So if we continue following this winding path, we should end up down at the lake. And as you can see, lots of different types of trees down here on the path. Basically because Robert Holford was into horticulture in a massive way, and he was actually also responsible for Westonbirt Arboretum, which is just down the road from here, which I've not been to, but it is quite impressive apparently. Oh, so here we are. We're down at the lake now. It's quite a modest lake compared to some that you see. So the lake, it was laid out in the 1870s, and although it's quite modest in size, it is quite interesting, because this was produced by a company called James Pullum and Son, and they were famous for something called Pullumite, which was basically used to create artificial rockeries, and this pool was created by them. So if we have a closer look, you can see that it's actually lined with concrete. If you look at the rocks there, they just look artificial to me. Surprisingly, the likes of Sandringham and Buckingham Palace also had Pullumite in the gardens. So you know, it was quite a thing in the 1800s. Not far from the lake, Pullum and Son were also responsible for this rockery. Apparently some of this is actually genuine, you know, stones or rock, but then artificial stuff's been added to them, the Pullumite, if you wish. So there's some more up there. So it surrounds us here, but a lot of it's overgrown, to be honest. If time and money allowed, could do with cutting right back. I'm sure it'd look quite nice. If you watch my video of Madresfield Court from a couple of months ago, they had a Pullumite rockery there, and it was quite tidy. Yeah, so it's a decent size. Look, I'm holding Pullumite. I'm holding Pullumite. Okay, it's all broken. That don't sound like rock, does it? So that's Pullumite by James Pullum and Son. It carries on further around the side. So you had the Pullumite rockery, and then you could walk down to the lake, which was also artificially constructed, including with Pullumite. Apparently there used to be a grotto in the middle of the rockery with featuring a stream, but can't really see any evidence of that at the moment. Actually, on the opposite side, I think that's where the grotto is, under there. But can't get to it, it's too overgrown. That's quite an impressive view, coming back from the lake. It's a nice angle of the house. So there you go. On returning from the lake, you can see where the church is in relation to the house now. There's another memorial to Robert Holford here, featuring his dog again, as you can see. Well, the dog that's associated with the Holfords. There's an inscription at the bottom. Si monumentum requiris circumspice. Apparently, that means if you seek his memorial, look around me. So that would be his house, his gardens, all his trees, because of his massive interest in horticulture. So it's a nice legacy to leave. So yeah, this has been Westonbirt House and Gardens. And that house is really impressive. The tour was good as well. And it was good that they didn't mind you recording or taking pictures and stuff like that. So if you're ever able to get yourself on a house tour or just for the gardens, I would recommend it. It's a nice place. You do have to do a bit of planning though if you want to come here, because I think the house is only open about 5 days a year to visitors. But I think the gardens are open a little bit more than the house. So if you want to go in the house, you'll have to do a bit of research. So yeah, thank you very much for watching as usual. I always appreciate it. And this is the other side of the house.